And welcome back to Public Affairs on Peach. I'm Giovanna Dierpick. As we resume our discussion of President Trump's executive order travel ban, we bring in GOP strategist Julianne Thompson. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so the Republican Party, you have Senators John McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham calling this travel ban a self-inflicted wound in the fight against terrorism. People from your own party are saying this is not the route we should go. What do you say?
Well, I have very mixed emotions on it. First of all, I disagree with John McCain and Lindsey Graham. I, of course, have a great deal of respect for both of them, but respectfully disagree with them on this. I think that the problem with this particular executive order is the way that it was implemented, not its intention. I mean, we can go back in time, we can look at back in the 1970s, President Carter banned all immigration from Iran. Not only did he ban that immigration, but he revoked the visas of current Iranian students here in the United States and deported them, and there was no outcry from the left at the time. And so I think it's a bit hypocritical to be pointing this particular ban out when it is certainly not without precedent.
That was a different time, different circumstances, some may say, and they would also say it's also how it was implemented, how it was executed.
Well, I just stated that I believe that I don't think it was the best way that it was implemented, this particular executive order. However, I do believe in what I feel is the spirit of the order and the intent, and that is to protect Americans from people that come from countries, for the most part, that have no centralized government. With the exception of Iran, none of the other countries in the ban have a centralized government. So how do you properly and thoroughly vet refugees and people from those countries when there is no paperwork or no digital work on those people to be able to trace them?
Some people say, though, that some of these refugees have been vetted for 2 years. In one case, 5 years.
Well,
that's a lot of time to research a lot of information.
You know, I'm not sure that I believe it goes back 5 years, maybe a couple of years, but still at the same time, I would like to know what the process is, especially since people from Immigration and Naturalization and the Defense Department under President Obama have stated, and they stated themselves before Congress, it is true, there is no paper trail and there is no thorough way to vet people from countries that do not have a centralized government. That came from members of the Obama administration, not the Trump administration.
We just had J.D. McCrary from the International Refugee Committee, and he said that this process has been working very well for a number of years.
Well, I think,
and they deal with this all the time.
Sure. I think that the vast majority of refugees are coming to the United States to avoid persecution regardless of their religion, regardless of their national origin. I think current times dictate a little bit tougher of a stance, and that is what the president's intent is. Like I said, the way it was implemented was not the best, but I believe its intention is good. And I believe that it is just quite hypocritical, considering this is not without precedent, and it has been done in the past by President Carter, and for 6 months, I believe, by President Obama with regard to Iraq. It's very difficult for me to buy the argument that there is something new and different and sinister about this particular order as opposed to what happened then.
As you know, though, the optics of it can influence public opinion, policy, etc. So, for example, some people may say, well, it looks like he was strong-arming the refugees and just basically taking a heavy-handed approach, whereas if he wouldn't have done it that way, if we wouldn't have seen a 5-year-old trying to reunite with their mother, it would have been perceived differently.
Well, I think that people are used to politicians that campaign one way and govern another. And I think that they are very used to people that do not keep their word that they give on the campaign trail. And Donald Trump certainly isn't one of those people. He said he was going to do this, just like he said he was going to do everything else that's occurred in the past 14 days. And he has kept his campaign promises. So it should come as no shock to people that he has actually implemented this.
Another point that a lot of people have been talking about is the elevation of Steve Bannon to the National Security Council that has lessened the roles of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Director of National Intelligence. Now, as some people may know, may not know, Steve Bannon was the head of Breitbart News, known for its white supremacist viewpoints.
Oh, no. That's completely unfair and a false characterization of Breitbart News. I've written for Breitbart News before. There is absolutely nothing about Breitbart News that is known for its white supremacist views except for a mischaracterization by the left and constant attacks because they come out with some stories that the left doesn't like, shedding light on what they're actually trying to do.
What do you think the strategy was in elevating his position? People are saying he doesn't have the necessary experience to be on that.
You know, I'm not going to second guess it, but here is what I will say. There is nothing about his elevation to being involved in those meetings. To my understanding is he does not have a vote in those meetings, and he is just an observer in those meetings. That has not done anything whatsoever to disallow the other members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from being a part of any meeting they want to. It's just, from what I understand from the statement from Bannon and from the White House, it just allows them to opt out of meetings that they ordinarily would be required to attend.
All right. Thank you very much, Julianne.
Thank you.
One more segment to go on this edition of Public Affairs on Peach. Next, we'll speak to a local representative of Georgia's Muslim community right after the break.